Coming home to who you are with Marcus and Mark. Hey, Mark, how are you this week?
I'm good, Marcus. Good to be with you again.
Hey, it's good to be, and it's good to be seen, and good to see you as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were traveling, right?
I was. Yeah, I was in Poland for a few days.
Hey, touch and go. Okay, had to
Yeah,
handle some business.
I did have a very nice workshop, and but I had to leave early this morning. 2 a.m. I got picked up. Yeah,
You left Poland this morning. You told me that you had an early morning, but you didn't tell me how early. You left
yeah,
Poland this
yeah.
morning.
2 in the morning. Yes, it was like a 3-hour drive to get to the airport, and then for a 7 o'clock flight. So yeah, I'm a little
Wow.
not jet lagged, but a little tired. Yeah,
The
but it
things
was
we
beautiful.
do
It was a lot of fun.
for what we love. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's good to have you here. It's good to be.
yeah.
A little catch up in my life. My father is in town, and yeah, I got to visit with him, share the book. Um, he, you should have seen his eyes light up. It was wonderful to sit down and yeah, catch up and talk with him and everything.
Great.
Yeah. So let's jump into it.
Where
This
are
week,
we here? Chapter 7, I think, right?
correct. Failing
Feeling forward.
forward. Failing forward. In this chapter, Kenna confronts the devastating blow of failing an important exam despite his preparation. He we go through this scene where Hendrix is handing back the exams. Kenna gets it, his jaw drops, and then we transition outside to him, Rosie, and Alex underneath the oak tree. The oak tree is a pivotal part inside this book where the students get together, three friends, and they talk about the going ons and they have a conversation. Rosie shares with him a poem. We're going to look at a few of those words, and we talk about failure. Failure. What do you do with failure? Um, Mark, just in a brief reflection, in your younger self, while you were even before you got into your marketing career, what would you say young Mark's relationship with failure was?
Hmm. Young Mark's relationship to failure.
And I know I put you on the spot. If I
You
give you
did,
some time to
yeah.
think, and
Yeah.
I'll share mine just so that you can catch up. Sorry
Why
about
don't you do
that.
that? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure, sure.
Hmm.
Um, I remember even younger Marcus, being an applicant for the GATE program. It's a gifted and talented education program. And I remember them asking me, where does paper come from? Where does milk come from? And I was in third or fourth grade. And I knew these answers. Yet I was wondering, why are they asking me? This is so simple. But I gave them the wrong answer. And I willfully chose failure just so that I wouldn't have to be, just so that I could stay safe. And I guess it was sabotage at a young age. But I guess
So
it's not
to
sabotage
not
because
go into
I didn't
the
really want it. Pardon?
program.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mind you, fifth grade and sixth grade, I went into the program because they were just like, he's why is he down here? Like, we have to move him up.
Yeah.
Um, and I noticed that pattern of, for me, it wasn't necessarily failure because I didn't want it, but I was playing a smaller game
Hmm.
that went into high school, that went to university, and it's just like, no, 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 no.
Hmm.
When I wanted something, I went after it. And we're gonna come back to wants and desires with the quote that you said. But yeah,
Hmm.
that was my relationship to failure. It was.
Kind
It's
of
not that
creating
you're
it yourself.
creating it myself, but then I mean, is it failure if it's not what you wanted? Then it's just like Marcus will want bigger. Like, I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking on the fly.
Hmm.
But
Or maybe it's also a way to avoid the possibility of failure, right? If you're stretching yourself into something bigger, maybe there's a sense of like, what if I'm not able to fully handle that? What if I do maybe fail and I've, especially when things come quite easy and naturally, maybe that stretch is a bit of a way to protect ourselves as well.
You hit it on the head, actually. Yeah, and that's another thing I've explored while growing into my understanding of failure now.
Yeah.
Um, I handle it more gracefully now. There's no failure; it's only learning
Hmm.
for me. Yeah. So, reflecting on your past, young Mark.
Yeah, well, what comes up for me is I would just get like like emotion, um, frustration, anger, even, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, if things. So I wasn't very good at managing my temper, my emotions. I think that was something in my younger years.
Really?
That was very raw. Yeah, I know it's surprising to many people because I come across as very like chill and easygoing and all that, but there's
Yeah.
actually yeah, there's quite some fire inside that it used to come out in much more raw ways, and I think I found much better ways of channeling it and working with it and using it, also as a creative force.
Hmm.
So yeah, that rawness I think was probably associated with a sense of things not going the way I would like them to go, or when you get frustrated or failure or whatever, it would trigger those aspects.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't like that part of myself, obviously, but I couldn't. It was very difficult for me to control it until I started to grow up, I guess, right, mature, work on myself, and
Yeah.
understand
A-
it a bit better.
Anger is the natural expression when we don't get what we want, but then we can't communicate how we feel about it, so we push ourselves away with anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think communication was a big part of it. Not having the words, not having the ability to communicate the things that were going on inside, and so it would build up, and then it would just, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
The quality. This I always remember this, Dr. Elliot. The quality of our life is directly related to the quality of our communication. The ability to speak and connect with others, and the ability to speak and connect with ourselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Boom.
yeah. And speaking from the heart, that was one thing that really stood out for me these last couple of days,
What's that?
when I was in Poland, was
Okay.
the powerful moments in those workshops were when people stood up and spoke from the heart. That's when everyone listened. That's when things were being brought to the surface that needed to be heard and seen. And
Hmm.
in doing that, it shifted things,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's such a contrast to the more surface level conversations that take place, right? And even if 80% or 90% of what's going on is still quite surface level, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
just 10% that is that deeper authentic from the heart, it impacts everyone, and it sort of
Mm.
shapes the space. So a few voices can have such a big impact on a larger group.
Yeah. A few voices can have impact on a larger group. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Mm.
One one last definition I'll give you before we move on is resent. It comes from sentar, the Latin, to feel, but it
Mhm.
means to feel again. When we don't express ourselves, we resent because it doesn't come out. Like we experience something inside and we push it down,
Mm.
we start to resent. So we have
Mm.
to express so that it can flow out.
Yeah,
We
beautiful.
experience and express. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Boom.
Nice
I'm good
connection
with
there in the
words.
words. You do that brilliantly, Marcus. The way you can play with words, break them down, connect with the origins, all of that, the deeper
Hey,
meanings of it. I
I
always love
love
that.
words, man. I love
Yeah.
words. Yeah.
Yeah. You're a master of
And
words.
that brings us to Rosie. Rosie is our poet in the book. And I'm going to read a poem that she wrote.
Did she write it though? Did she write it though, Marcus?
I'll say this. The spirit of Rosie wrote it. It was written before I knew of Rosie, yet Rosie is in a lot of my poetry. So
Ah, okay.
yeah, she's the Afro to Bahamian German. There's a lot of us throughout all these characters. I see myself in Amara, in Kenna, in Alex. But yeah, Rosie, the poetry, I'll claim that part.
Beautiful. Yeah, don't be shy about it.
Hey, heck no. No, dude.
Mhm.
There's no greater privilege than to be who you are. Like I love that part of me.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to read that? And
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
So this is the poem that Rosie presents to or shares with Kenna and Alex under the tree. So Alex is or Kenna is quite down from his exam, and he doesn't, he's not really seeing a way forward. He's sort of stuck in this rut, and so she speaks out these words: "Step out and break your indecisions, because your timidness breeds delay. Rather find boldness, magic, power, and genius from within. When you step out and just begin.
Hey,
Just begin. Step out and just begin."
boom.
Yeah.
This was actually I'm not sure if it's Ray Bradbury or it's a quote from the guy who went to the first guy to go to the North Pole. That's where actually this started, and then I rephrased it.
Hmm.
It's called Step Out, and Rosie wrote it for Kenna because of their previous conversation. And I'll read it for you right now. It says,
Hmm.
"Step out from your dreams, leave empty slumbers, and be a person who is aware. A person of no fear. Be a person who dares greatly to take one step. Unafraid of where your feet will find a path, or where the thousands of steps to follow will land, or those steps yet to come. Rather, find faith and fulfillment in that one single step where your progress has begun. Step out and break your indecision, because your timidness breeds delay, with days soon slipping away, leaving you to lament over time lost, bearing the weighty cost of an empty thought of what could have been. Rather find boldness, magic, power, and genius from within when you step out and just begin.
Mm.
Boom, step out and just begin.
Find magic, power, and genius when you step out and begin. It's like,
From within. So
yeah,
from within. Yeah, go on, go on, go on. It's like what?
no, it's just this sense of stepping into something, into an unknown, is what actually is a catalyst for our creativity, for our genius, for our power to come through.
Mm,
Like that. Is there something about just stepping forward without having all the answers that actually catalyzes our inner power, our inner genius?
yeah, that's what it means to be human. I think two things with that.
And would it otherwise be dormant? Would it otherwise remain dormant without that stepping out?
Maybe I wouldn't say dormant. I would say would be unrealized, and it would be it would not go with universal law of human. I
Hmm.
think we are the universe experiencing itself, but to expand, we step into that unknown, and two things happen. From the inside, we we expand to meet the moment, we flourish. Yet also from the outside, there's support that comes and says, "I got you."
I
You
love
have to
that.
believe
Yeah,
that you're connected to something bigger than yourself.
yeah. I got you.
I
I'm
got you.
catching. Yeah,
And
that's
you know what?
beautiful.
I say that from a while I do have a spiritual background, I say that from a secular place as well. Like
Hmm.
in our humanity, it's just like we have to catch each other. Of I got you. If a person
Hmm.
doesn't feel like they can step out into their desires, into what they want, and to create this world, we're not going to grow as humans. We're going to stagnate, rather. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's amazing is this morning I received a message, an email from a good friend of mine,
Mm,
Fabio, and he
okay.
writes these daily apples,
An apple a day.
little thoughts, yeah, just little thoughts, little musings every morning. He shares them, and this one was called "When the Time Is Right." When the
Hmm.
time is right, and he plays on that idea that we often say, "I'll do it when the time is right," and sometime in the future, right? When all the pieces of the puzzle in place, I'll do what I need to do. I'll do what I'm being called to do. And he kind of like in his writing, he flipped that around and he said, no, it's actually the other way around. It's like act now, and the time will be right. It will
Hmm.
become right.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
thing that wants to happen will happen in that time when we act. So it's not wait until the time is right to act, but it's act and the time will be right. And I think that's the synchronicity was beautiful, because that's essentially what this poem is about, and the chapter is about as well. So a little shout out to a good friend Fabio, if you're listening in at some point. Thank you. Your
Hey,
words are received and inspire. Yeah.
a good word put out, to receive, and then you receive your good word. You're sending it back to Fabio.
Mm.
Awesome. Yeah. You know what I was thinking when you were saying that is we wait for the planets to align, where he's saying act now and you will pull the planets in alignment.
Mm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so true. Well, today's conversation is about failure. Um, have you faced a significant failure and one that ultimately pushed you to reconsider your path or priorities? Want me to go first, or did you have one in mind? We talked about it earlier, but
We've talked about failure a bit, and um, that's definitely one part of this chapter, right?
okay.
It's what do you do with failure, and how do you bounce back and respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another part of the chapter that I found really fascinating, and
Okay.
it is when Alex or Rosie mentioned to Kenna that in response to his failing exam, saying you're more than your grades.
Mm. Okay.
You're
Talk to us
more
about
than
that.
your grades. You're more than an engineer. And I think there's something very powerful in that, because when we're young, maybe not so much, but as we grow older, and we we get a job, we get a position, we get a title, and we kind of become that title, we become that identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in university and school, it can be like that. You're always known as the one who has the best grade, so you become the person who's defined by a grade,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Your whole family has always been an engineer, so you become the person that is defined as an engineer.
Mm.
And I think there's something interesting about a connection to personal development. I have seen, and I wonder if you've noticed this as well, is that the more attached we are to an identity, to a way of defining ourselves, the less open one becomes to go on a path of knowing ourselves, doing the deeper work of personal development, because there is a risk of jeopardizing everything that you're known for, everything that you are, your identity. And the more we're attached to that, the scarier it is to the idea of maybe I'm not that, or maybe I'm not just that, or maybe I'm not that anymore. Those ideas that come with
Mm-hmm.
personal development. Um, yeah, so I don't know if that's what's going on with Kenna,
Mm-hmm.
but there may be something there as well. That he's defined himself so narrowly that any idea of outside of that box feels scary. And, you know, you can't even imagine like that is also me, right?
Mm. I, two things come to mind. One, it's about the grades. I really don't like it. It's a snapshot. It's a snapshot of his ability at the moment,
Hmm.
and he's tied up into it because of the second thing is his identity, and that's what you're touching on. I mean, to develop is to change your identity. Like that's what the hero's journey is at the three steps. You come out and you say, I'm not a child, I am, you're a man, or then you say, I am not like them, I am this. It's a constant step of I am, I am, I am.
Hmm.
Some people think the outside changes their identity. Few people are able to understand and change your identity from the inside out. Um, as educators, as parents, as caregivers, mentors, and so on, that's where we hold that identity for the other person. And we give them evidence and examples of that identity for them to take that identity on. So while Rosie is saying, yeah, you are not your grades, I think we might need to write this in more explicitly, but it's you are this. And they do somewhat say it later on. But it's hey, this is what I see. This is who you are. And I
Hmm.
think we need more of that in education. And we need to
Hmm.
actually intentionally bake that in through project-based learning. That's what I talk about.
Yeah.
Because you're helping them see the evidence of who they are
Yeah.
in their actions. I mean, and again, that's regardless of failure. That's regardless of grades. You do a project. How did you grow? What did you learn? Okay, yeah, you're shooting for a goal, but what did you learn? What did you learn? And your identity then becomes I'm a person who makes progress.
That is beautiful, right? Because that is a very significant shift when your
When you say
identity
that,
becomes
mm-hmm,
I'm a work in progress. You know, I am on a journey, an adventure. I'm on a journey of becoming. You know, that idea, I think it feels very relevant in today's world, right? Is
that's human development. Yeah.
it's
When you
human
say it feels
development,
very,
yes,
when you say it's
but
very relevant, what do you mean?
it's one thing to do human development. It's another thing to define ourselves through the lens of, you know, that essence of I am developing, right? I am me developing into my potential, and that potential continues to expand. It continues to show me more and more and more. Like
Mm,
the more I step into it, the more I see what else is out there. And the more I step into that, the more I see what else is out there. Right. So it is this continuous journey of becoming more and more who I am, right? Rather than arriving
mm-hmm.
and kind of having this identity that then fixes again, right? I am this,
Yeah.
but I am this
Yeah.
constant growth of evolution, right? That I find that really beautiful, and it makes life so interesting, makes life such an adventure,
Mm,
and it's still very core to our essence, right? There's still that source that is at the core of that whole process. So it's not like one day I'm that, one day I'm here, one day I'm there. There's very much a thread, you know, that holds everything together. But that, yeah.
I, coming back to what you said earlier, it's it's being curious while that change is happening and holding space for that change, as
Hmm.
opposed to judging that change as it shifts. Or it's not like what I expected. Oh, I'm
Hmm.
angry, or I judge it and I'm mad. But rather, it's yes and basically. But it's like
Yeah.
moving with that change, causing the change while also observing the change, if you will. And it's just, oh, this is life.
Yeah.
Yeah, being an
Yeah.
active agent and actively observing it, if you will.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Boom.
Yeah, and I think that is actually, also something that comes in this chapter is this this reference to happiness, right? And that happiness is
Okay.
not a destination. It's not something
Mm,
we pursue, but it's something that flows through us if we open up to it. And that the more we step into the things that give us energy, the more we're going to flow with everything else. And what I love about this chapter is that it's really that point, that first moment where Kenna starts to see beyond this either or choice. You know, either I do these salons and I step into this thing with Amar, or I really focus on my studies. And what he's starting to see that actually no, it's by focusing on what he's being called to do, which is work on these salons, he's actually reinvigorating or renewing his passion for the education around engineering, so that by doing one thing you actually are you know performing better in the other as well, that it's not one or the other, but that they're interconnected. The more we find fulfillment, the more we're going to be enjoying everything that life is offering us.
I I would even say he's not called to do the salons, and
No.
this is very nuanced.
Hmm.
The salons present themselves. He is called to be himself, and himself wants to do the salons.
Mm.
And what I mean
Okay.
by that is
Yeah, yeah. Tell me the difference, the nuance.
that is doing from being. He is being himself, and it's not his decision to pursue engineering.
Yeah.
It was a decision given to him that he didn't contest. But he's like, is this really me? I want to do me. Who am I? And then he starts doing from his being of saying, oh yeah, okay, this is what I, because in doing from his being, he then starts doing engineering from his being. His
Yes,
being
yes,
is of service. His being
yes,
is of exploring life. His being is of giving love. And he's
yes.
like, yeah, let me, and then that's the path life takes him on.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really well said. I
Yeah.
think that's what happens, right? It slowly starts to happen. And
And
yeah.
even before he makes that decision, though, at the end of this chapter, because this is the end of part one, you mentioned, he says, I have to do it on my own terms. And that's where he steps out. He says, even if I fail, which he does in the next chapter, just so you know, but even if I
Does he
fail,
fail again? No, don't tell me.
he's failed 4 times. And we just finished the first part. We're building up to it. There was a
Poor
failure
guy.
outside of him, inside of him, with relationships. Nah, he's living life. He's good. He'll be all right. But it, Alex quotes the Viktor Frankl, it must ensue. It's not something you pursue, happiness.
Mm.
I'm not sure happiness is what he wants. He wants to be content and he wants to be fulfilled. Both of those mean to be filled up.
Mm.
Happiness comes from being fulfilled. It's a byproduct of it, right? Because it may or may not come. But as he's filled up and he's fully himself, he starts doing from his full, complete being. He's at full potential.
Oh, well said. Well said. Genius. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a full concept, eh?
Yeah, it does really. Amazing. Somebody should do something with that.
Hey,
Yeah.
be at full potential. And you just start creating and create these conversations, you create businesses, you create relationships. We step into our creativity, our God given, what is it, duty to be, and just create, to sustain. And oh man. Would you
Yeah.
would you like some final words? I think we've reached our natural progression of things.
Yeah, we have. It's been super fun. Like you say, it's the first act. We're closing the first act of the book, which is 3 acts. So yeah, maybe just like what is this first part? Um, how would you summarize it in a couple words? What is this first part about?
Yeah. So for me, it is figuring out what you're not.
Hmm.
That's what it is. Kenna comes to university, has expectations. He has two good friends. He's getting to know a mentor, but even more so, the world outside of him tests him, and he's like, "I'm not this. This is not me."
Hmm.
This is not me.
Interesting. Yeah.
Life, when life asks of you, though, who are you?
Maybe. The,
We oftentimes
mm,
answer, I'm not
right.
this. Life is not asking you who you're not. Life is asking you, who are you? And that's when you need to trust yourself. We'll get there. But this first act is, I'm not this.
Nice. Yeah. And I feel like, the second act is probably more around I am this, more clarity on what it is that I am. But you're right, maybe
Mm.
that knowing who we're not, or feeling what is not congruent anymore, is that first step, right? Because that's what we're feeling, right? Those are the emotions that we have, is something is not right here, right? Something is no longer
Well,
aligned, something is, yeah.
this is how life goes. Watch this. When you say, I'm not this, you oftentimes attach to a group. And you find your tribe of friends, you find your mentors and whatnot. And then that's what breaks away inside the second part. Again, that's
Mm,
foreshadowing. But then you start to realize, I'm not this friend group, and that's okay. And you get to the last part, it's, I am this by myself, and I am part of that friend
mhm,
group. And this is my unique, differentiated contribution to that friend group that makes us
mhm,
stronger.
mm. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, a little foreshadowing there.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. If you stay on the journey with us, these are 7 out of
Yeah.
23. And yeah.
What a pleasure. What a
All right.
pleasure this is. I love these Friday afternoons. It's always a
Boom.
great way to
This
end the week,
I
Marcus.
love I love talking about stories inside the classroom, and now it's a story that I co-wrote with you. So thank you,
Yeah,
Mark. I love talking about these stories with you.
always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
All right, everybody else watching. See you next
See
week,
you next week.
and yeah, looking forward to coming home to who we are. Peace, everyone.